Ladies and gentlemen, good evening and welcome to the Planning Board. We thank you for showing on up tonight. There's a few orders of business that we'll need to tend to before we get started with our meeting here. Just a few announcements I want to make to you beforehand is that there are a number of processes that have either been continued or withdrawn at this point. So let me just go through those pretty quickly. Number 7823, which is the White Hart Lane subdivision, that's continued to May 15th. Under previous plans, John D. Reddy Jr. Trust, 21 Old South Road, that's continued to May 15th as well. Under public hearings at this point, we have two withdrawals, which we'll accept in a while. First one's going to be 617, which is Win-It In LLC, and the second one is 2717, Thomas Heiser and Jane Stoddard. More continuations at this point will be the Orange Street Residential, 137 and 141 Orange Street. That's continued to May 15th. Valero Road Subdivision, that too is continued to May 15th. And just in case, but kind of doubtful, there was a preliminary plan that was filed for 8116 Thomas H.C. Giffen, trustee, Somerset Nominee Trust, and that's going to be moved to May 15th as well, too. Okay. So with all those changes that you have at this point, I'm going to call the meeting. The meeting's already been called to order, but I'd love someone to make a motion to approve the agenda that's now before us at this point.
Second.
Motion's now made and seconded for discussion. Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, ayes have it unanimously. You have minutes from the following time periods: February 16th, February 16th, 2017. Okay, good, thank you. February 23rd, March 8th, and March 31st. Are there any errors or omissions as submitted?
Motion to approve the minutes.
Okay, and do I hear a second?
Second.
Discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those
Aye.
opposed? Ayes have it unanimously. Nat, do you want to just sit out your one, or do you want to sit out the whole A&R shooting gallery?
I'll sit out mine.
What's that?
I'll just sit out the one.
Just sit out the one. All right. So for A&Rs at this point, there are 13 that you're going to wind up now considering. The only one we're going to isolate out so far is 8119, which is Mr. Nathaniel Owen, 416 Blueberry Lane. Just the A&Rs right now. There's 13 of them for a grand total, except for the last one, which we're isolating. So I would like someone to, thank you, endorse.
I'll make a motion to endorse 8102 1 and 3 Waterview Drive, 8103 Town of Nantucket, 8106 Joseph Marchese, 8107 Kitsock, 8108 Bop, 8109 Holgate Holdings, 8110 Wendy Hudson, 8111 Leona Tripp, 8112 Mike Daly, 8113 Fred Clark, 8114 Sarah Johnson, 8115 Gibson, 8118 Fraker, 8119.
No, we're going to stop right there.
Oh, that's good, because Nat's on it.
There you
Yep.
go. That's great, though.
You're still here.
All right, so
Still
the
here.
motion on the floor is to endorse those. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion's now made and seconded for discussion. That's okay. Hearing none. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, ayes have unanimously. That's going to bring us to 8119, which is Nathaniel Lowell, 4 and 6 Blueberry Lane.
I'll make a motion to endorse 8119 Lowell.
Okay. Motion's now made and seconded. Discussion. Hearing none. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, ayes have unanimously.
With Nat recusing.
Yes, indeed, with Mr. Lowell recusing from that. All right, secondary dwellings. You have 6 of them before you at this point with subsequent staff reports. Take a motion to...
I'll make a motion to approve Rizzo and Hudson, 15 Primrose, Levesque, 66 South Shore Road, Harshman, 1 Windsor Road, Tuttle, 11 Tacoma, LLD Realty Trust, 2 Wynn Street, Cosera, 14 Mizzenmast, per staff comments.
Okay, and do I hear a second to that? Discussion. Hearing none. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, ayes have unanimously. That brings us to tertiary dwellings, and you have 4 of those before you at this point.
I'll make a motion to approve Fredericks 4 White, King 69 Milestone, HFI AC 71 Hooper Farm, App AC 30 Appleton Road per staff comments.
All right, do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion's now made and second. Discussion. Hearing none. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, ayes have it unanimously. That brings us to previous plans. The first one, which is Dave and Laura Fredericks on 38 Boulevard. Just to make a note, this was not anticipated by the chair within
Right.
the 48-hour
Yeah.
time
Right.
frame. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
There was one change that didn't make it into the staff report on
Please.
this. 7919 and 8039 Hatikva Way subdivision. They only need the Form J, not the Form G.
Are we talking about the ones we just approved?
No, it's coming.
No, it's coming up.
Oh, it's on the next page.
It-
Yeah, I got
Yep.
you.
I crossed off G already.
All right. So what's the pleasure of the board here?
I'll make a motion to approve Fredericks at 38 Boulevard.
Okay.
We'll ratify that at the May meeting.
Okay. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, ayes have it unanimously. Stewart Flag.
Make a motion to approve Stewart Flag, tertiary dwelling, 6 Exeter Street, per
Okay.
staff comment.
All right. And do I hear a second?
Second.
Discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, ayes have it unanimously. On 7946 Waterhouse Way subdivision.
I'll make a motion to endorse the plan.
All right.
They've worked out all the problems with Ed Pesci.
Yep. And do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion's now made and seconded for discussion. Hearing none. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, just let the record reflect I'm still opposed to this project and it's from its initial form. Okay? Thank you.
So is it 4-1?
4-1.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am. Okay, 8070, which is Benjamin Natalie Cowger, 15 Gregulin Ave.
I'll make a motion to approve Cowger at 15 Gregulin Ave.
Okay, do I hear a second?
Second.
Discussion, hearing none. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All right.
Those opposed, ayes have unanimously. That brings us to 7919, which is an
Just a Form J.
8039
I'm
Hatifka
out.
Way.
I'm out on that one.
Okay.
I'm out on that one also.
All right, so that leaves the 3 of us at this point.
I'll make a motion to release the Form J and
Okay.
the performance. We releasing the whole deposit, or what are we doing?
They had originally asked for the board to consider a Form G deposit, and they don't need to do that anymore. They'll have the improvements completed.
So just the release of the J.
Yeah, release the Form J, and we'll hold it until the improvements are complete.
Okay.
Okay,
I'll make that motion.
and do I,
Second.
motion's now made and seconded for discussion. Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, ayes have unanimously. That's a 3-0 vote with Mr. Marklinger and Ms. Williams recused. 7823, which is White Hart Lane subdivision. This is a Form J as well. Oh, that was continued. I'm sorry, my bad.
That's all right.
My bad.
Confusing.
So that's going to bring us and drop us down into 6016, which is Marine Home Center requesting a minor modification.
I have to recuse.
All right, let the record reflect Ms. Williams.
Kathy, did you get that?
And this is just for the new building we already approved, right?
Yep. Mr. Chairman, they're
Yes, ma'am.
proposing to add approximately 280 square feet to the warehouse structure that you approved at the rear of the property. The reason for the change is to accommodate vehicular movement within the structure. The structure's over 18,000 square feet, so I don't think that 280 relative to the overall size is a big change. I would recommend that you approve that as a minor modification.
Oh.
And
Public hearing. Oh, no, this isn't a public hearing. No, sorry about that. Sorry about that.
Thank you for thinking about
No,
And Mr. Chairman, you will need to make the finding that a public hearing isn't necessary
Yeah,
if the
it's a
board's
minor.
inclined.
Yeah.
I have no issue
So,
with this.
board members, what would you like to do at this point?
Thanks.
I'm fine with it.
Fine.
All right, so I need someone to make a decision.
I'll make a motion to declare that it's a minor modification, doesn't need a public hearing.
Dave?
I'll second that.
Well, all right, it's a minor modification, right. Okay.
Haven't done that in a while, so.
And, okay, so that motion's made and seconded.
Yep.
Discussion, hearing none. All those in favor, please say
Aye.
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 Those opposed, ayes have unanimously with a 4-0 vote with Ms. Williams recused. That brings us to 4816, NAR Retail LLC.
Do we have to vote the?
We have to
that we're
approve
allowed?
the change, though, Barry.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm
correct?
sorry, I thought you, I
No,
thought that
no.
was, I apologize.
No.
I thought that was included in your motion, sir.
Nope. I'll make a
Okay.
motion to approve the extra 281 square feet.
I'll
Yeah.
second.
Motion's now made and seconded. Discussion.
We do? We need to activate an alternate. It's a special permit.
Oh, sorry, that I did not realize. My bad.
See
Mr.
that?
Borchert? If you don't mind? Yep. All right, so you're clear on the motion at this point, hopefully. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Those opposed, ayes have unanimously. Beautiful, thank you. Okay.
Can I just ask, Holly, can you keep doing this up here for us?
Because we
Okay.
can't get it here.
Is this, we don't have to hit every single one of them? Okay. Because my eyes are going.
Because the
on
packet
this
didn't
one.
come through in one form, it came through one
But,
at a
Yeah.
time,
You know,
and I will tell you
which
something,
normally we don't do.
which I
It's good.
actually love that you just did that,
I
because
hate
now
that.
this, let me just finish what I was
Probably.
gonna say, is the download time is now phenomenal. Okay? I'm glad. Thank you for doing that, because basically, the size of between 800 to 900 pages was causing a lot of the iPads to fold.
Yeah.
It was just too much information. So as much as you may not necessarily like this format, it is a highly workable format. you
'Cause I
know,
couldn't open
because
the
it-
last
Well,
one.
it took me, on an average, 10 seconds to open an application. So that works as opposed to an 8-minute download and an iPad folding.
I never
Thank you.
downloaded the last one, couldn't
Yeah,
even download
this,
it.
this one's a lot easier, trust me. All right,
so
so that's gonna bring
4816.
us to, I'm sorry, 4816?
NIR, yep,
Yep, which is NIR Retail LLC.
I don't have a problem with that.
Mr. Chairman, they're
Yes, ma'am.
proposing some minor changes to the layout of the site plan, mainly the parking area. It's to accommodate a request made by the fire department. Ed Pesci has reviewed it. He has a few minor things that need to be addressed, and Paul Santos can deal with those. So I would recommend that you vote to, again, say this is a minor modification that doesn't require a public hearing.
Okay.
I'll make the motion that it's a minor modification. It was
Good.
at the request of the fire department.
Okay.
Second.
Discussion, hearing none. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Those opposed, ayes have unanimously. And
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
discussion. Hearing none. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Those opposed, ayes have unanimously. Great. Okay, that brings us into the public hearing phase. The first one is 6-17, While Win It In LLC. I would love someone to make a motion to accept the withdrawal. Hopefully
I'll
without
make a
prejudice.
motion to allow 17 While Win It In LLC to withdraw without prejudice.
Do I hear a second?
Prejudice.
Second.
Discussion, hearing none. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, ayes have unanimously. And 2717, Thomas Heiser and Jane Stoddard, 6 Quaker Road.
Motion to allow the withdrawal by the applicant without prejudice. I hate
Second.
that word.
Discussion,
Can't say it.
hearing none. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Those opposed, ayes have unanimously, which now brings us down to 2817, which is Sindel Gaynor on 84 Old South Road.
Excuse me, Mr. Chairman, before
ma'am.
we go into that public hearing, we had one other business item
Oh, sorry.
that needs to be addressed before we go into the public hearings. It's relative to scheduling. It came up today. It's not on your agenda.
Yes, okay.
There's a conflict with the May 8th planning board meeting. Oh,
Yeah, I've
We-
been
we
announcing
didn't-
them, I
We've
have
been
been
using the
announcing them
15th
as
the
the
whole time.
15th.
Yeah,
But go
15th.
ahead. Just do it for the record, because I really get it
Because-
out there.
Okay, so for the May 8th hearing, 2 of your board members and 2 staff members will be at the American Planning Association conference. So we've suggested May 15th as an alternative meeting date.
That's what we've been doing.
So hopefully you're all good with that.
Yeah.
I'm fine.
Okay, good.
So Orange Street and Valero and are going over to the 15th of May.
Yeah, correct. Yeah. Okay, so, back to our regularly scheduled program. 2817, Sindel Gaynor, which is 84 Old South Road. Is there anyone here for the applicant? Please, come on down. Do you want to say anything, or do you want the
You don't
board
have
just
to
to?
say anything.
You don't have to.
No,
Not necessary.
not really.
You may want to hang by the microphone just in case. just in case.
Thank you all.
Hi.
Hi.
Hi. Give us a few moments, and if anything comes up, I promise we'll ask. So, board members, do you have any questions on this?
No, we've already done it for 2 other properties next to you, so.
Yeah.
It's the same
Same
plan that's
exact
already
thing.
been
Same
approved
exact
for
thing.
other properties.
Yeah.
Anyone else on the board? Andrew, Leslie, anything you have?
Same plot plan.
Mr. Chairman, our
Yes, ma'am.
only comment, which was in the staff report, is that the screening needs to be shown on the site plan to be compliant with the zoning bylaw.
Just show the screening, Cindy, because you have it
The
listed.
screening is there. I'm sorry I neglected to.
Just put it on the plan.
Okay, so I
Just
should
draw it on the plan.
come into the office tomorrow or do it tonight, or?
Just do it tomorrow.
Okay.
Tomorrow's fine.
Great. All right.
Great. All right, ladies and gentlemen, this is a public hearing. If anyone would like to comment on this.
Motion to close the public hearing.
Do I
Second.
hear a second discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor, please say
Aye.
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 Those opposed, ayes have unanimously, and the pleasure of the board.
Motion to approve with screening added to the plan in the office.
Got it.
Second.
Discussion. Hearing none. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, ayes have unanimously. Great, thank you.
Thank you.
My pleasure. 2917, Two Goats LLC, love the name, 5 and 7 Spearhead Road, for the applicant.
Good evening. For the applicant, Rhoda Weinman, and Paul Santos is here with me on this application. My client recently purchased the 2 lots, 2 vacant lots. They're a little over 5,000 square feet each. They were part of the Coffin subdivision. He's merging the 2 lots and seeking a special permit. He's seeking relief in order to construct a commercial building, approximately 3,200 square feet, which will be 2 stories. The first floor will be contractor shop, warehouse, storage, light manufacturing. Second floor will be office space and a 2-bedroom employee apartment. The lots are currently zoned commercial industrial, but they're subject to a zoning freeze under RC2 zoning, which expires on October 15th of 2017. The proposed structure will be conforming to all RC2 setbacks, frontage requirements, ground cover, open space, and parking, and we're not asking for any waivers. So I'd ask you to please approve.
Okay, thank you. Board members, any discussion on this?
Question.
Please.
Has Ed Pesci's looked at most of the guys in there? Leslie, has Ed Pesci looked at this one?
This isn't an MCD, so he has not. The only ones that he has reviewed, either 1 fell into the MCD category, or 2 were in the part of the subdivision that has a drainage easement that required additional review. And this is not in that part.
Any other questions from the board? Anything from Andrew and Leslie? No? This is a public hearing, ladies and gentlemen. If anyone would like to comment on this.
Motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
Discussion. Hearing none. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Those opposed, ayes have unanimously. And
Motion to approve.
Second.
discussion. Hearing none. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, ayes have it unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
That brings us to 3017, which is the Galley Beach Restaurant on 54 Jefferson Ave. I see Mr. Reed rising to the occasion. Good evening, sir.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman. Certainly skipping through the agenda at an unprecedented rate this evening. Let's keep it that way.
There you go. Thank you.
For the record, Attorney Arthur Reed, representing the Galley Beach Restaurant. David Silva, the principal of it, is with me, along with his mother, Jane Silva, who's long been involved with the operation of the restaurant, and his on-site manager, Kevin Anderson. What we are doing here is nothing new. We are seeking to basically ratify the conditions that exist down on the site. This is the subject of an existing MCD. It was originally part of the same MCD as the Beach Club and Hotel, but that was split away, and by a planning board decision, and I believe it was 2004, they became two separate MCDs because they're in separate ownership. And there's always been, as long as the restaurant has been there, there's always been seating and service on the beach in front of it. That has been through a number of permitting processes, including the fact that they dealt with the need with the Architectural Access Board for handicapped accessibility, and were able to work out a method by which they're able to have a wheelchair-friendly surface on part of the area on the beach, which enables that to be in compliance with all state laws and so on. In any event, there are existing provisions in the special permit relating to the number of parking spaces, which didn't take into consideration the seats on the beach, but those have been there since, as I said, before, and I think that was an oversight that nobody ever addressed that issue. The issue of parking on this property is one that, if it were not being managed actively by the applicant, would be a problem. However, for some years now, the applicant has been taking care of the parking issue by having Valet parking service, Valet Parking America, which is the same company that has the contract with the town for the parking down at the town building. That's done all through the summer. And I think that you have all the materials in the file. Again, I want to keep the meeting short as long as I can, and we're all happy to answer questions and discuss whatever you'd like discussed. But we do feel that all the material is there to show that the valet parking situation has worked. There are other factors to consider, such as the fact that there is a great deal of overlap in terms of the need for parking between the hotel and beach club and the restaurant. Many of the people that stay there or are members of the club also eat at the restaurant, and that's one car rather than two cars going down there for the same purpose. In any event, we think that this is a situation where there's no harm, there's no change in what's been going on up to the present time. It's worked well, and we would like to see the board approve it. And as I said, David is here with me to help answer questions and discuss anything that needs discussion.
Great. Board members, any questions on this?
I'm good on
Mr.
it.
Borcher?
Where is the valet service currently parking vehicles?
David, do you want to take that?
So, hi, I'm David Silva. I'm the managing partner of Galley Beach. They park the vehicles in the parking lot, but they stack park cars. So there's portions, in practice, we have an easement for our 20 spaces on cliffside land. But in practice, what happens is Cliffside uses our parking and we use their parking. The beach club is busier than we are during the day, so often their cars are parked in our parking places and vice versa during the night. But if you look at just our parking spaces there, they park sideways in front of those parking spaces. You get about an additional 12 parking spaces just there. They park stacking cars behind the other parking there. So they're able to sort of double the parking. And in practice also, I don't think there's a time that the valet service is ever really turning cars away, except maybe 4th of July weekend or something like that when it gets really busy. The way we manage that on the restaurant side is our reservationists are trained on those busy weekends to tell people if they're an NIR or a hotel guest to say, hey, maybe you want to come with the courtesy cars, or we suggest coming by taxi, especially on 4th of July weekend.
Have you ever considered using the Jetties Beach parking lot by the tennis courts, or is that something you don't need?
We haven't needed it up till now. I mean, I know Valet Park of America, the company that we uses, I believe, has a lease on it with the town, and that they use it for what they do with the town. So
the only reason I'm saying is I've been down there many, many times, and I truly appreciate the restaurant and the beach club, all that you've done for the community, and
Thank you.
And it's a very nice place to go and watch the sunset. I just thought if there was any pressure this summer or following summers, maybe there would be a way to work it out with the town or Valet America to have overflow on that lot by the tennis courts, because it's right around the corner from your place.
No,
that's all I'm saying. So.
No, that's a great idea, and I think that Valet Park of America could do that, and maybe there's on occasion that they have. I think if anything, maybe I've discouraged them because I didn't want there to be this idea that we are doing something that maybe we shouldn't do, since it's, they have that contract with the town. But if the town were for that, I would be for it as well.
Okay, thank you.
Yep, sure.
Anyone else have any questions? Anything, Andrew, Leslie, from staff perspective? Okay, this is a public hearing, ladies and gentlemen. If anyone would like to comment on this? Yeah, please, come on down and identify yourself for the record.
Hi, my name's Joseph Young. I'm actually an abutting neighbor to the Galley restaurant and also the beach club. We're at 43 Jefferson Avenue. We're just a little bit to the east of the Galley. And really why I'm here is just to express our concern as the spokesperson for my family that, with all due respect, I don't think it is actually working all that well, and that oftentimes what we find is that there is a traffic snarl that occurs at the end of Jefferson Avenue there. The valet parking, they're doing a good job of trying to manage it. However, I think the number of people that they have to deal with is just overwhelming at this point. So oftentimes what happens is there's a backup of traffic further south along Jefferson Avenue, and we find that there's a problem of people that are racing to get to the club, racing to get away from the club. The amount of traffic that's been created there by the amount of people that are going to both the restaurant and also to just enjoy the beach is causing far more conflict than there has been in the recent past. And also we're concerned about the potential danger that exists here, because I personally have been in situations where I'm almost hit by people who are coming, either going away from the club or the restaurant or going to it. So in brief, I feel as if I'm not sure what the solution might be, but I do think there is a problem here, and I just think there are too many. I really do think that there's too much traffic down there. One of the things that concerned me about the application was the issue of the outdoor seating area, and it seems that, as far as I can tell, at least from the application, that there's provision for 80 seats. From my personal experience is that the number of people that enjoy both food and beverages outside exceeds the 80 number. So my question is that in, I don't mean to be a problem or anything, but is that in violation of any existing code that you might be operating under? I just don't know. So I'm here just to express my concern on behalf of my family for the number of the amount of traffic there, and I don't think increasing the waiving of the number of cars that are permitted for such a restaurant of that size is the right course of action. I'm also concerned by what happens with the overflow. Somebody was talking about putting it on the upper portion of the Jetties Beach parking lot. Oftentimes what we find is people that, and I'm not sure if it's the valet parking or not, but that they will park the car along Jefferson Avenue further down. I'm not sure if that's their doing or not, but the parking is just, it's really getting out of control in the area. That's fundamentally what my concern is.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Pietro?
I'd like to ask Kevin Anderson, who is involved with the day-to-day management and deals with this issue, to respond.
Yeah.
As you said, Kevin Anderson, Director of Operations at Galley. I just think it's important to point out that not every car on Jefferson Avenue is there for Galley Beach. That's a flattering statement to say, but we have beach traffic. There are multi-million-dollar homes being built there now, landscapers, utility workers. There's a lot of traffic going on there that does not have to do with Galley Beach, and that might add to a traffic snarl, but I can see I just don't think it's fair that, I think he's unfairly asserting that that every car on Jefferson Avenue has to do with Galley. I also like to think, I think that the precedence of seats on the beach, since the 1950s, we're not adding anything new. Everything's been there. In terms of code, I'm sure Art can speak to that.
Yeah,
but.
I can talk about that too. So the seating that we're asking for is the seats that are there. To some of what Mr. Young said was about, are there other people beyond those seats? There's standing room in every bar. There is a lot going on now with the town trying to, there's now an enforcement officer that didn't used to exist that's going around and making sure that you're not above your capacity. So all those other codes that there might be, some of them are plumbing codes. Do you have the right amount of bathrooms? The fire code is the real safety code, which is how many people can you have in your building based on square footage and egresses. So that code we're definitely not exceeding. But we do even just for our own guests' enjoyment, have, Nantucket is busier and it has gotten busier. So, for instance, we never used to do this in the past. Now we ask our valet guys to ask people at a certain point if they have a reservation at the restaurant. We do that because, a lot of people who are dining there, they're coming there for the sunset. And the second seating people are people that didn't get a reservation during the sunset. So those people, part of the outside seating that we have, about half of it, is lounge furniture, and that's part of the tradition. It used to be benches before that. But that people who wanted to come to dinner during sunset didn't get that reservation, or coming down there before, watch the sunset, and then sitting down for dinner. So what we do in practice now is once we see that, maybe it's half full for what the seats we actually have, those 80 seats, in this case about 40 of them, we have the valet guys start saying to customers when they're parking their cars, do you have a reservation tonight? If they say no, we say, well, the bar is full, even when it's not yet, because we're holding space for people that we know or we believe will probably be coming for their reservation. So we do try to manage that very actively. We're doing I think we're improving on that management of that.
I have here a number of letters that we received too late to get into the packet. I think Holly may have received some.
Yeah.
Right. But I'd like to just leave these with you. I have plenty for everybody. So,
Thank you.
You want them all? Or one?
Just give them all to her.
Thanks. Basically, several of these are from neighbors who are in support of this application. There's also a letter there from the Chamber of Commerce. The Galley Beach has, I think, been a very good corporate citizen in terms of having events that serve various island charities. And I think that they've certainly made their place in the community very, very, very clear. Again, I don't want to take the time to go through all of this, but I think that it is something that certainly supports our position.
Yep. Thank you. Go ahead.
Just to be clear, there is no change in the special permit. What you're trying to regularize is the numbers that we've always known were there, beach and in regular seating,
Right.
versus the amount of parking that we didn't expressly waive, though we knew that the seats were there.
Right.
So what we're trying to do is getting the numbers straight in the permit versus the occupancy versus the seating.
Exactly.
So all three things are going to say the same thing. And it's not just your restaurant that's having this problem. There are almost every restaurant's having an issue between the occupancy, the seating, the floor plans, and the parking if they have a permit from us or the ZBA. None of the numbers match.
Right.
So you're here to get the paperwork straightened out without actually increasing the seats. when we count all the seats that we always knew were there, the parking calculation changes.
Right.
And that has to get rectified in the decision.
Right.
So while they're not increasing anything that we've already given them approval for, the numbers didn't all match. So I, again, don't have an issue with it, and having my family member of Cliffside for 50 years, even before your family bought it. And from when I was a child, there were always people parking on Jefferson. They were going to the beach because they couldn't park in the Huffman side, and they couldn't park in the Cliffside side because we had a guy over there doing your "can you park here" thing. And people were parked all the way down Jefferson during good days because they go to the Gaza Strip in the middle. So it's never not had cars on that street, whether it's on the left or the right, going to the beach. So there was always a little chaos there because of the piece in the middle.
Any place where there's access to the beach is going to
It's going to
attract
be
traffic
insane.
and parking.
And you're sort of very successful, which has increased the pressure on you guys and increased the pressure on the street. But
And it's very important to them, of course, as you can see,
Yeah.
that the parking be managed well. They
the
obviously...
valet parking has made all the difference down there.
Yes.
I'll tell you, without the valet parking, before you had that system in place, it was a little chaotic. And then you guys separated the properties between you and Rob, and the valet parking was an essential part of this whole thing. So I think it's managed as well as it can be managed. And again, you're not responsible for some of the stuff that's being parked down the street, which are walking to the middle strip. So I don't really have an issue with it.
Did you have something, Joe?
No, go ahead.
Mine's a quick question.
Go ahead.
If there's no problem, why did you come into?
Because
No,
Can
there's
you
no,
let the
there's
applicant
no
answer,
real
please? Thank
reason. I mean,
Let the
No, no, no.
applicant...
the issue of
Please.
occupancy,
Thank you.
as it's interpreted by the by the town, as it's come up with the notices that were and the presence that was made, for example, at Stroll with regard to the number of seats, and
so there was like some complaint or.
not with regard to us, but with regard to a number of restaurants that were
Oh,
open
so
at
this
that
is-
time, and there have been, as a result of all that, there have been notifications sent by the building
I sort
department.
of understand. I just.
Hold on. Andrew,
Okay.
go ahead.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. If you remember, the Graydon House came in to clarify the same exact issue, and I advised them to come in and get this straightened out, and you will be seeing probably all the restaurants,
Oh, okay.
because there is again, this enforcement about seats versus standing area and capacity needs to be straightened out. It's putting them in an enforcement bind unnecessarily.
All right.
So.
No, that's.
Yep.
I thought it was something like that. I just didn't know about it.
Yep.
It's fine.
Carl.
Just to follow up really quickly, what I'm seeing here over the years is more and more pressure on restaurants and businesses in the summertime. I'm expecting 100,000 people here from July 4th till race week. I wouldn't be surprised. And this gentleman has some legitimate concerns, and you folks are doing a great job down there considering it's so popular and so well used. But maybe we all start to think in the back of our minds of 3 to 5 years out, maybe expanding the valet to another location to handle overflow. All of us are in the same boat, you folks that are, and like you say, the beach is during the daylight hours generally, but this is the challenge that we have to face as an island. It's getting more popular, more busy every summer, and I just want everybody to know that because 3 to 5 years it's going to be even more busy, and you may not have enough capacity to double up down there and everything. You might have to go to Plan B, So, but and that Stroll thing was kind of shocked a lot of people when that enforcement happened, and I think, yeah. Anyway, so that's what I'm thinking. I'm just thinking 3 to 5 years, it's going to get busier and busier, and you folks are good business people, so you'll figure it out. But this is what we all have to face. It's just getting busier and busier and busier. More cars, more people, more customers, more everything, and legitimate concerns of neighbors. So, anyway, thank you.
Thank you. We couldn't agree more. I mean, this is an issue that I think more and more people are going to need to address and address directly and in some cases in innovative ways. I mean, valet parking 20 years ago, whoever heard of valet parking on Nantucket? Now it's something that I think a great many people are going to have to go to, or should go to in any event.
Anyone else in the audience wishing to comment? I'll give you a second, Jake. Yeah, go ahead. Did you want to briefly? Just come up to the microphone. Yeah, I'm sorry. This is televised.
Okay.
Thank you.
Just wanted to take advantage of the forum to find out if there is any provision for capping the number of people that do frequent the outside seating. Because our concern is really mostly for the sunset period when people seem to come out between the 6 and 9 period.
Great. Please.
Yeah, we're capped again by the total amount of people that can be in the building by egress and square footage. So even the outside seating, the ABCC requires that it be roped off. In the past, that wasn't something that happened there, but there's a 3,000 square foot area with little signs saying no alcohol beyond this point. We actually employ a guy that's out there during a few hours during sunset when it's the busiest and people want to walk off with their drink to tell them they can't do that. But so the square footage itself, that granted square footage of on the beach in front of the restaurant is the cap. And I think we're trying to manage that ourselves because we don't want a bunch of people standing. We want everybody as much as possible in their seat, and then have a few people standing around as you would at any normal bar. So, for me, I don't actually think this is the end thing here. If the board decides to approve in our favor, I believe I'll have another conversation I need to have with the building department about whether it's the whole larger issue that's going on with like what happened at Stroll and what other issues. So I don't know what those issues might be exactly now, but that would be my next stop, is to say, hey, we've done this, and what else do we need to do? So there's a lot of confusion right now, it seems to me, in the town between what is capacity. There is certain numbers that are, again, based on code that have to do with square footage and egresses, but a lot of restaurants are dealing on their CO with their seats, and that number is what's being taken as their capacity, even though it might not necessarily be their capacity based on square footage, but they were told to build a certain amount of bathrooms based on that, on the seats and not on the total capacity. So there's a lot of little gray areas here that I think, I'm on the board of the Restaurant Association, so we are trying to get together with the town, the fire department, the police department, and the building department, and try to have those discussions and iron some of that out.
Thank you. Anyone else in the audience wishing to comment on this? Anything further from the board? What's the pleasure of the board?
Motion to close the public hearing.
Do I hear a second? Discussion. Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
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 Those opposed, ayes have unanimously, and,
Motion to approve.
okay. Do I
Second.
hear a second? Discussion. Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, ayes have unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
And you talk to each other.
You should, yeah, please do take advantage of the fact. Right. Thank you.
Carson, are you here for something? Julie? Julie, Carson, well, I think we've already done yours. Are you 71 Hooper Farm Road? That's what I thought. Okay, I just want to
Fine.
make sure
Thank
you
you for
didn't
being
sit
here.
around if you don't have to. You can leave, you can want to
See,
leave.
no, look at that. They actually want to stay and participate. There you go.
Hang out.
It's not a bad thing. So next thing before us is 3117, which is Mark Cook, 37 Cato Lane. Is there anyone here for the applicant? That's okay. This is where I want to go to. I just want to check to see if anyone's here. You notice that from staff, they're recommending withdrawal of the special permit, so it can be refiled.
I'll make a
Andrew?
motion to allow the withdrawal without prejudice, so they can refile.
And we're still on that same track,
Is that right?
Leslie or Andrew?
On this?
Yes.
Okay.
They actually needed to modify the subdivision.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So-
okay.
So I'll
Second
make
that
a-
motion.
Okay.
So the motion's now made and seconded. Discussion. Hearing none. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, ayes have unanimously. 3217, Cameron L. Cowan and Patricia J. Cowan, 48 West Myacomet Ave. This is for a modification. I see Mr. Santos coming down. Hello again.
Hello. Thank you. For the applicant, Paul Santos. Also with me tonight, Susan McCarthy from the law firm of Cohen & Cohen. Representing the applicant and now owner of the subject property, Leonard Barbieri. This is a modification to a special permit which was issued some months back for the redevelopment of 48 West Myacomet Road, which is a parcel of land located within the MMD zoning district, thereby requiring a special permit for work or redevelopment on the subject property. And essentially what we're asking for is to insert into the existing special permit by modifying it this finally approved site plan, which was, since the time we were here, approved. The building was approved by the HDC, and the site layout and location was approved by the local Conservation Commission and the state under the Mass Endangered Species Act. So essentially what we're done is inserting a final approved plan into the file. At the end of the day, the existing ground cover ratio we're picking up and modifying this existing dwelling and relocating it on the site. The existing ground cover is 1,410 square feet. Under the special permit, we were allowed to go to 1,500 square feet, and that's what we have depicted on the plan. We also, at that time, proposed a zoning or ground cover exempt 200 square foot shed. That is still located on the plan. And at the end of the day, because it's the MMD and we look sometimes at the decking, impervious, and so forth, the existing decks and landings on the present site is 1,075 square feet. Proposed decks and landings and porches under this proposal is 1,060 square feet. So there's actually a 15 square foot reduction in impervious based on some of the MMD criteria. I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have. Essentially, again, it's a modification to the existing special permit. At the time, Mr. Barbieri was the contract purchaser. He is now the actual owner of the property. I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Let me just go to staff first, because I think they had a comment or a question that was sitting in the report. Are you guys good now?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, we recommend approval.
Okay, great. Thank you. Board members, anything?
I'm fine with it.
Okay. This is a public hearing, ladies and gentlemen. If anyone would like to comment on it? Seeing no comment.
Motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
Discussion.
Second.
Hearing none. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Those opposed, ayes have unanimously. Pleasure of the board.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Discussion. Hearing none. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed,
Thank you.
ayes have unanimously. Thank you.
Did a great job there, Paul.
3317, which is Holgate Holdings Incorporated, 2 and 4 Vesper Lane. Is there anyone here for the applicant? Keeping you busy tonight, Paul.
Just stay up there.
I was able to sit down through most of the ones I've had already, so
There you
that's
go.
easy. This is good.
Keep you busy for a few minutes.
Thank you again for the record. Paul Santos with Nantucket Surveyors. Susan McCarthy is also here from Cohen & Cohen, and Don Holgate, and I think Michael Holgate might be showing up too, who is the owner of the property as Holgate Holdings, Inc. If you could we go to the parking plan, Holly? So earlier this evening, under the A&R approval process, you approved the revision of a property line located at this subject property. The property is 2 and 4 Vesper Lane, otherwise known as the Holgate's Laundromat and Dry Cleaning Facility. And earlier tonight, this is the existing property line here. We created a parcel of land here, which has been appended to number 4 Vesper Lane, or what we consider the Laundromat property proper. So currently we have a parcel of land. This entire area here is controlled by the Holgates. We have a duplex that's located on a separate lot here. We have a garage with apartments above. We have the laundromat, dry cleaning with apartments above. And we have some existing residential properties here, again, that are controlled by the Holgates. The application before you tonight is specifically for this newly created parcel, which is approximately 22,710 square feet. It is now numbered, so it's a portion of 2 and 4 Vesper Lane, both owned by Holgate Holdings, Inc., a Massachusetts corporation. The locus is in the commercial neighborhood zoning district. It currently contains a 2-story mixed-use structure with about 637 square feet, which is this structure here, which is a garage or storage area with apartments above. It's actually a 2-bedroom apartment above that. The laundromat itself is a 5,490 square foot building, which houses the laundromat, dry cleaner, and the commercial laundry services. Also, the public laundromat is located within that facility. There is also a 2-bedroom apartment above this particular structure on the 2nd floor. While not required, the apartments are used for employee housing. At peak times, there can be up to 30 employees on the site, usually with only 1 to 3 servicing customers within the public laundry area. The rest of the workers would be within the dry cleaning operation. Property provides about 14 parking spaces with 8 pull-in parking spaces in front, 6 parking spaces in the rear, and it does not conform to access parking screening regulations, and it is a grandfathered use subject to 2 or 3 existing permits that were issued for the subject property by the Zoning Board of Appeals, historic permits that are noted on the plan. So the parking spaces that we have existing spaces that are located along the front, along Vesper Lane. We have parking along the back here. We have parking here by the garage area. And those are spaces that are historically been used for the subject property. There are also public spaces located across Vesper Lane that have historically been used also for the laundromat. What you see here are the more defined spaces that have recently been approved as part of the hospital expansion project. So these are, I believe, 6 spaces, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 spaces shown along the north side of Vesper that are there. They're public spaces but have not been counted as part of our parking calculations for our proposal. The table that you have on the plan was developed based on an informal meeting back in October of 2015, I believe, when the Holgates came before this board to discuss the fact that there is no specific requirement for parking for the laundromat facility or a use under the current zoning bylaw. So the parking table that you see on this plan here was developed based on conversations that we had with the board and some research we had done with regard to laundromat facilities in other locations. So the parking table, which is in this area here, the first line is the commercial, industrial, and industrial uses, which would be 4,328 square feet, parked at 1 space per 900 square feet for a total of 5 required spaces. The ancillary storage, which would be the 637 square foot garage here, requires 0 spaces as it's an ancillary use to the main use on the property. The laundromat or public space would be under the existing building, and what we're proposing here is a freestanding, approximately 1,200 square foot new building located in this vicinity. You'd have 2,400 square feet of public laundromat space, which the board determined at the time we were going to park at 1 per 500. So that requires 5 spaces. We did mention the total peak shift seasonal employees at 30. However, through discussions with the board, we determined that the customer service component of that would be 1 to 3 employees at peak shift. So we're parking that under the 1 space per 3 employees at peak shift, which would require 1 space under that component of the regulation. The apartments would be parked at 1 space per bedroom, so 2 here would be 4 spaces. So that brings the total parking requirement under the code and under the board's interpretation of the laundromat component and the pub and the employees at a total of 15 spaces. And we do show 15 spaces on the site. Those spaces are along the front, We're showing a new handicap space in this area here to service the new freestanding building. Parking here, parking along the back. Now, historically, for the duplex component, there are parking spaces along this side of the building here that are used by the laundromat. They are not on the laundromat property, so we have not included those as part of our parking table. And there's also a space over here, which is also used for the duplex component. As I had mentioned also, there are also 6 parking spaces on Vesper Lane that we are not including within the parking calculations. So for the purposes of what we are proposing here, we're saying 15 required parking spaces, and we're depicting 15 spaces on the site itself. 9 in the front, 3 here, and then the 3 up in that area right there. To the extent necessary, what we've done, we've filed this application as an MCD application, essentially to override all the existing ZBA permits that are on the property. To that extent, we would seek waivers under the MCD, including open space, setback, inclusionary housing, Section 18 off-street parking, to the extent as far as the screening and parking and so forth, off-street loading, and then driveway access. The site would be compliant with regard to ground cover, and quite honestly, as it's presently constructed right now, it is right on the borderline of the 20%. Under the 20% requirement for open space, it is compliant also. So essentially, we're taking an MCD, we're asking for an MCD application for the existing laundromat, adding a freestanding new public laundromat facility here of about 1,200 square feet, new handicap parking with access off of Vesper, and essentially the existing laundromat will continue to function, and the dry cleaning will continue to function the way it does today. I'd be happy to answer any questions that you may have with regard to the proposal.
Sure. Board members?
Did you change that from a attached building to a separate building for more square footage, or was it, I'm a little confused why that was happening?
No, it strictly had to do with building code compliance. As soon as you append a new building to this existing facility, it triggers issues with regard to building code compliance on that existing building. Sprinklers, a whole other code compliant issues that it was felt that separating the building was the better way to go and more efficient way to go with regard to the permitting.
The other thing I had noticed was, do you have enough room for a handicapped vehicle to pull in next to space 8 and park there, or that can't be perpendicular to Vesper Lane like all the other ones in front, or is there a reason why that's parallel? Because it looks a little tight going in from space 8 into that handicap spot and getting out of it.
Well, the handicap spot would actually be located, you'd be coming in this driveway here. You'd be coming in this driveway into this area with the handicap. You have your 8-foot space and your 8-foot area here. There currently is actually, we could make an accommodation here for a handicap space. What we'd have to do, if that case, I mean, this area here is available for parking. We haven't designated it as such, it's not paved, but they do park in this area. So an additional handicap spot could be added, and then we still wouldn't lose a spot. We'd take our 15 spot and just create it back in this area.
I didn't realize you had that other driveway there. I'm sorry about that.
Oh, yeah, because Holgate's control this parcel here, too.
Okay.
Correct.
Well, that pretty much solves that then, if they can
Yeah.
pull in that driveway. Thanks.
Anyone else?
It is what it is.
Andrew, Leslie, anything from staff perspective? Ladies and gentlemen, this is a public hearing. If anyone would like to comment on this,
Motion to close the public hearing.
do I hear a second?
Second.
Discussion. Hearing none. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Those opposed, ayes have unanimously, and the pleasure of the board.
Motion, Andrew, Liz, are you going to look at those old permits to see if there's anything in there you got to carry over and do that through staff? Okay. I'll make a motion to approve with a draft from staff available in the office.
Perfect. Second. Discussion. Hearing none. say aye.
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 Those opposed? Ayes have it unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. So that's going to bring us to 3417, which is Richard Bodett, trustee of 50 West Myacomet Road, nominee trust. 50
Another one.
Myacomet, West Myacomet
The
Road.
other one.
Is there anyone here for the applicant? Howdy.
He's turning into the shed guy.
The shed guy?
Not letting you sit down at all.
No, no such thing. Yes, sir.
Okay. Again, thank you. For the applicant, Paul Santos with Nantucket Surveyors. This is, again, a modification, first modification to a special permit issued within the MMD zoning district. This is for 50 West Myacomet Road. In fact, 48, the earlier project we spoke about was this property right here. This property had also transferred recently. We came before this board for modifications to the existing dwelling, which entailed a front porch, a second-story deck over an existing first-story deck, and the removal of some impervious areas along the existing dwelling. This is, again, a parcel of land located in the MMD zoning district. A lot of record, if you will. Originally, it was developed outside of the MMD. There is a primary, this is actually, believe it or not, this is the primary dwelling. That's the secondary dwelling. And at one point, there was a historic garage on this property that had been removed due to ground cover issues on the subject property. There still exists a concrete impervious slab in this vicinity that is still on the site. So what we're before you tonight is a modification to add a ground cover exempt 200 square foot, I think in this case it's 198 square foot, shed on the subject property. It would be similar to the shed that was approved on 48 and also 46, I believe. There was a zoning shed approved by the planning board within the last 2 years, and that property is currently under development. So that's what the application is for a zoning or ground cover exempt shed on the subject property. Again, when we look at some of if there's concerns with regard to the impervious area within the MMD, the concrete slab here could be removed from the site, thereby offsetting. This is 198 square feet. I think the concrete slab is, I think it was a 20 by 20 building. I'm going by memory. I think it's about 396 square feet. So we'd be gaining again, would be reducing the impervious area on the subject site if the board was to approve the shed. I'd be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Board members? Anything? Andrew, Leslie? Public hearing is open, ladies and gentlemen. If anyone would like to comment on this? Hearing no comments.
Motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
Discussion? Hearing none. Oh, sorry.
You're gonna take out that concrete slab, Paul?
Yes, that would be the idea.
Okay, sorry about that. So
Excuse me.
It's been there a long time.
we good?
Yep.
Okay. So the motion is now still standing to close the public hearing. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, ayes have unanimously.
Motion to approve.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Those opposed, ayes have unanimously. Great. Thank you. That's going to bring us to 3517, which is James S. Kazira, trustee of the 14 Bismass Nominee Trust.
It's no longer a special permit.
Yeah. So anyways, staff recommended again to withdraw the special permit.
I'll make a motion to allow the withdrawal.
Mr.
You don't need
Chairman?
one.
Hold on. Let's slow down.
Mr. Chairman, we received a request from the applicant's attorney this afternoon that they would like to continue it for now.
Okay.
So
Motion
it
to
would-
continue without opening
Yeah.
to May 15th.
Okay.
That's,
So that
the right
motion is
thing?
made and
Okay.
seconded.
Second.
Discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor, please say
Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, ayes have it unanimously. Great. So continue to May 18th.
The next two go together.
They do. Do we want to hear those together, or do they need to be heard separately?
Uh, There are, Mr. Chairman,
Duly noted. That's okay.
Mr. Chairman, there are two separate applications. One is a subdivision modification, and one is for a secondary lot special permit. I think it makes sense to just talk about them together because they're
Okay,
related.
great. So we're going to open 8101 for Kara Bozanowski, Weatherly Place subdivision for Weatherly Place, and as well as 36-17.
For the applicant, Mary Ann Hanley. Mrs. Buzanowski is
Duly
here,
noted.
if you have any questions. This is a lot on Weatherly Place, which is off of Fairgrounds Road, which was a 4-lot subdivision approved a few years ago now, and it had your usual, no further subdivision contingency in it. And that's the way that it was written up. Mrs. Buzanowski would like to create a year-round secondary lot. We have a young fellow that works here on the island who's interested in it, and we're hoping that you will see your way to allowing for a waiver of that no subdivision condition and also granting of a special permit. If I can just segue into the special permit application, we are also asking for a waiver of the setback requirement between the side yard line between the primary, or I guess I can call it the primary lot versus the secondary lot. And we are also asking to have a separate curb cut for the secondary lot. You don't seem to have the curb cut permit plan up there, but basically Weatherly Place is a dead end. Both of these parcels are located pretty much at the end of the cul-de-sac. None of the lots within the subdivision are allowed direct access onto Fairgrounds roads from the lots. They all have to go through Weatherly Place. So we think that, it's not a traffic safety issue, which is usually one of the reasons why you only want to have one driveway onto a roadway. And I think that about explains it. The lots were originally created basically because of the size of the dwellings at the time that were on them. But there is a significant area of room on this lot. It's over 15,000 square feet, and only 10,000 is required in the district. And we can create the secondary lot it's about 4,500 square feet, and there'd still be, the remaining primary lot would still have over 10,000 square feet.
Board members, any questions at this point? So 8108 is the special permit, or?
No, 8108 is the subdivision modification.
And 3617 is the special permit?
Yes.
Okay, just because Mr. Trudell's recused, and so I just want to make sure I keep this straight because it's gone.
Okay.
Yep. Good.
Mr. Chairman, is it 8101 or 8108?
That's what he meant.
Did I say 8108?
Yeah, it's 8108.
Oh, sorry. Slip of the
Sorry.
tongue. Slip of the tongue on my part. My apologies. Okay, so board members, I hear nothing. Andrew, Leslie, anything from your perspective?
Mr. Chairman, our only recommendation is relative to the subdivision modification,
Yes.
that the new lot be added to the homeowners association and that the legal documents be amended to reflect that.
We can do that. I mean, the entire lot is already part of the homeowners association, but we will have to do an amendment to change, most likely to change the voting rights of the lot owners.
Okay, great.
And, excuse
Yes,
me,
go
Mr.
ahead,
Chairman,
please,
on
ma'am.
the secondary lot, we'll need to add a condition about constructing an apron, which they would have to do anyway, but just so it's in the permit.
Okay.
That's fine. We have to do it.
Okay. All right, this is a public hearing, ladies and gentlemen. If anyone would like to comment on this?
Motion to close the public hearing.
All right, so, and we're going to have to kind of do this in segments.
Which one's
I'm
going
sorry.
first?
So
The
let's go to
subdivision.
8101. Let's close the public hearing on
That's
that.
fine. On the subdivision.
On the subdivision,
Okay.
correct. Do I hear a second to close?
Second.
Motion's made second for discussion. Hearing none. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, ayes have unanimously. With Mr. Trudell recused, that's a 4-0 vote.
Motion to approve with the change in the homeowners association, and Leslie, and the apron?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
Second.
Okay, so that motion's made in second. Discussion. Hearing none. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Those opposed, ayes have unanimously. That's going to bring us to 3617. Mr. Callahan, we're going to activate them for this one, if you would, sir. Okay, thank you. So, hearing nothing further in terms of the public hearing,
Motion to close the public hearing.
do I hear a second?
Second.
Discussion, hearing none. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, ayes have unanimously. And
Motion to approve.
do I hear a second?
Second.
Discussion, hearing none. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, ayes have unanimously. And, are we there?
That's it?
Okay, thank you very much.
Covenant.
All right, thank you.
Plenty of room for a covenant lot there.
Ms. Trudell stands recused on both of these, so that's why we had a. That's correct. That's why we activated him for the second part of it, not the first part. Correct. Okay, 8099, which is James E. and Nance Lyden on 20 Evergreen Way. When you're ready, sir.
Okay, thank you again for the record. Paul Santos with Nantucket Surveyors on behalf of the owner and applicant, James E. and Nance Lyden. This is a AR subdivision filing. It's essentially tied to a second AR filing on the Glowacki property that we will discuss after this one. The proposed subdivision would be accessed off of Evergreen Way. It's an existing developed piece of property containing 1.9 acres, consisting of one parcel. There is currently 2 existing residential dwellings and 1 tertiary dwelling on the site. Residential dwelling here, and a tertiary dwelling recently permitted in this vicinity here. It is located in the R40 residential zone. The applicant has proposed 2 buildable lots and 1 lot for the roadway, lot 429A, 429B, and a 20-foot wide modified rural roadway, if you will, component of the subdivision. Both of the lots are serviced by well water and on-site sewage disposal, underground telephone, electric, and cable services. There is now, however, public water available in Evergreen Way, and the lot is now actually also in the sewer district, and the sewer is located not that far from the subject property. It's located to the west here in Evergreen Way. And the intention is to potentially run the sewer up Evergreen to service both parcels, and then potentially tie both parcels also to the town water located on Evergreen Way. The subject site is outside any specific flood hazard area. There are no wetland resource areas on the site. It is not mapped under the Mass Endangered Species Act. The site is located in a DEP Zone 2. It is located within the Public Wellhead Recharge District. And therefore, with regard to number of bedrooms, maintaining the wells on the property, you'd be limited to 1 bedroom per 10,000 square foot of lot area, unless you were to tie to the town water and then tie the lots to town sewer, then there would be no specific bedroom restriction on the subject property. Traffic generated by the development essentially would be minimal. Essentially what we're doing is creating 2 lots in an area that the existing structures are already located. With regard to we have 2 primaries, and you'd have a secondary or tertiary on this particular lot here. There'd be no development phasing required, and vegetative cover would essentially stay the same, as we're really not doing anything here that would change the general layout of the existing structures. Again, we have asked for a modified road layout and turnaround. We've asked for a number of specific waivers with regard to drainage, lighting, landscaping, the standard waivers we would ask for under a particular subdivision of this nature. I will tell you that 2 weeks ago at town meeting, the real lot bylaw that was passed actually sets itself up pretty well for this particular scenario here. And I filed these prior to the town meeting happening. I will be looking at these again under the rear lot bylaw. And also the fact that this has a 20-foot right-of-way here, we'd be looking at it with the 40-foot right-of-way, because I think that was the intent of the time of the rear lot bylaw, was to look at it more so not with the modified subdivision, but more with a conventional. And I think under this scenario that we can do the 40-foot layout and then come back with this with a rear lot bylaw. In that case, what it would do essentially would probably change this configuration where the 20-foot strip would come out to Evergreen. You'd have a lot here, and you'd have a lot in the front. And you'd alleviate the need for the AR component of this. But again, we weren't sure what was going to happen at town meeting, so we're moving forward right now with the AR subdivision, typically as we would typically do it. And I'd be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Board members, do you have anything at this point? Andrew? Oh, sorry.
Got one for
Yeah, go ahead.
Andrew, really. I didn't think we were set in stone 40 foot. I thought it was a compliant, kind of a compliant proof plan, not
We, based on testimony that we heard, they have to produce a proof plan that does not depend on waivers. So they would have to show a proof plan that would show that they can do the 40-foot layout that would meet our requirements, and then we can move to the special permit.
Okay.
All right. So. Okay, Mr. Chairman, I have a couple questions.
Yeah.
So, through you, Mr. Chairman, so the intent is to hook these buildings into sewer and water?
Yes, I believe, right now, there's one septic system on the subject property. I think the owner's intent here is to, they have asked me to look at connecting to sewer and water, yes.
Okay, because I think, the condition in the earlier Cedar Crest one, I think there was sort of an expectation that they would be hooked up.
Mm-hmm.
And I will, through you again, Mr. Chairman,
Please.
is a condition that requires that within a certain period of time. Is that acceptable to them?
I mean, I could check with the owner, but I believe it would be acceptable. These lots are in the sewer district.
Yes.
But they do not have to do a mandatory connection because the sewer does not come in front of the lot at this particular time. So if the sewer was here, they'd be getting a letter from the Board of Health saying that it's a mandatory connection. But the sewer is
right
so away. So, but I think the intent was to try to connect that sewer down to this site.
Right. Mr. Chairman, just to be clear, I think
Sorry, guys.
Cedar Crest one, there was sort of a requirement to do that, and some of those earlier subdivisions, the enforcement didn't necessarily follow.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's important that we have changed the zoning on these particular parcels, that both these two and the ones to the north need to be hooked into the sewer.
Okay.
That was part of the justification for the zoning change. So I would encourage the board to have some sort of requirement, which again, there could be a time period or a sale period or something that triggers that to happen within a reasonable period of time.
I think it's only a few hundred feet away, Linda. I think it's like right up on the bend, right on the corner here. Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Well, you're going to need to do it if you want more bedrooms, right?
Oh, yeah.
So, I mean, for development,
yeah.
it's gonna
Well,
be-
even if they tied to the town water, because it's in the public
Right.
wellhead recharge in Zone 2, they're still limited to one bedroom per 10,000.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
they're
So-
going to do it.
Yeah. It makes sense.
But, go ahead.
The condition, like in many of our other subdivisions, is that the dwellings are hooked up to water and sewer. Here, we would say some sort of condition within a period of 5 years or
Yeah, 5 years is good.
something.
Yeah.
The sewer district, all the properties are supposed to be hooked into the sewer. That's why it was created.
Correct.
It's a public health reason, so. Yeah.
Anything else from the board at this point? No. Go ahead, Andrew, please.
And just so the idea of the road, so it's unlikely that that road is going to be actually constructed, right?
Correct.
We're going to, okay.
Yeah.
Because if it were, we'd want to change driveways and things, but because it's not, I think.
Correct. I mean, under this scenario, if we did go forward with this scenario, we'd be looking at easements. I mean, this is a pretty significant paved and lined driveway here. We'd be doing this more as an easement outside of the roadway itself. But again, that's, as I said, my next step here is probably going to be a conventional subdivision layout, and then look at this under the rear lot. And then the two owners are completely independent of each. Leiden's doing what he's doing. There's no interconnection between the two properties. The Leidens can do their front lot, rear lot, without any need for cross easements or any type of interaction with Glowacki's.
Thank you.
Anything else?
Two page.
It's a public hearing, ladies and gentlemen, if anyone would like to comment. I know, truly, hearing no comments.
Motion to close the public hearing.
Second. Discussion, hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, ayes have unanimously, and.
Motion to approve with a 5-year, Andrew, water and sewer.
Okay.
I'll second that.
That motion's now made and seconded. Discussion, hearing none, all those in favor, please say
Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, ayes have unanimously. Thank you. Which brings us to 8100, which is Greg W.
Same
Glowacki,
thing.
22 Evergreen Way, so.
Again, thank you. For the record, Paul Santos on behalf of the applicant, Greg Glowacki. Property owner at 22 Evergreen Way. This is a property to the north of the one we just discussed. It is a 2.5 acre parcel consisting, it's one parcel, 2.5 acres. Currently there are existing 2 residential dwellings, multiple structures on the site. The property is set in the R40 residential zone, and the applicant is proposing 2 buildable lots. One lot for the roadway, lot 430A, 430B, roadway, 20-foot wide, modified roadway, creating frontage and access to the 2 lots. Again, site is not located in a flood hazard district. No wetlands exist on the site. Site is not subject to protection under the Mass Endangered Species Act. Groundwater Resources, site is located in the DEP Zone 2, located within the Nantucket Wellhead Protection District. And the site is serviced by on-site septic, and I believe at least one of these dwellings is currently connected to town water. But there is also an existing well on the site. No development phasing is proposed. No change in vegetative cover, as again, we are simply taking existing site and creating 2 buildable parcels with a roadway parcel. Standard set of, again, drainage waivers with regard to the subdivision to achieve this particular scenario, along with a rural road configuration. Be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Great. Board members?
No.
I'm good.
Okay. Andrew, Leslie?
Ditto.
Go ahead.
Mr. Chairman, again, because I guess this road isn't serious. I mean, the normal condition we would want to see on this is probably an easement, at least running, with a 20-foot wide road, at least an easement on the, I guess, westerly side, of at least 10 feet for utilities and the like. Also, it looks like I can't read. There's a lot of structures on this, which are what, sheds and
Sheds,
and things.
yes.
And I mean, a couple that violate the lot line, zoning lines, but I take it that's all being cured.
That will be cured, and in fact, this is part of the yard. This is an easement granted by, who's the owner over here?
Richmond?
Richmond, I'm sorry, yeah. That's an easement, actually. This front yard is actually over in here. That's an easement to maintain the yard on the Richmond property. So.
Okay.
Lines don't mean I know.
So,
Yes,
Mr.
sir.
Chairman, I
Please
think I would
continue.
include just that easement at this stage. I mean,
In the 5 years for sewer?
5-year time.
and the sewer and water hookup.
Is that reasonable?
Yes, thank you.
Public hearing's open, ladies and gentlemen. If anyone wants to comment, no comments, you have to ask.
Close the public hearing.
Second.
Discussion, hearing none. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, ayes have unanimously. The pleasure of the board.
Motion to approve the 5-year water sewer and the easement issue
Second.
and the roadway.
Discussion, hearing none. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, ayes have unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you.
Tell me you got the next 3, Paul.
No.
Wow. Okay, so that brings us to preliminary plans, which is 8104, 5 on the Dime LLC and 9 Pilgrim Road LLC, 5, 7, and 9 Pilgrim Road, and 4, 6, and 8 Pilgrim Court.
I'm out on the next 2.
Oh, okay, fine. Duly noted. Thank you, Mr. Markinger. Go ahead, Dan. Good to see you, sir.
Good evening, Dan Malloy, Site Design Engineering for the applicant. I'll make this one really quick.
Yes, sir.
We are going to request to withdraw this application.
Sure.
We'll get that in writing to you probably the next couple of days.
Okay. I would accept them from the board. That there is.
Make a motion to allow the withdrawal without prejudice. I hate that word.
I know.
Second.
Discussion. Hearing none. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, ayes have unanimously with Mr. Markinger recused, which brings us to 8105, David and Jen Avisco, 4 Rachel Drive. Sir.
Again, Dan Malloy again, Site Design Engineering for the applicant. So Rachel Drive, we're looking to extend it out with a very small cul-de-sac type road.
The idea is to create enough frontage to create 2 lots. Fairly straightforward, looking for a 20-foot right-of-way, 12-foot gravel road, on-site septic and well, nothing overly exciting with this. The only question would have to bring before you if it goes forward as approval required is the dead-end road length. Rachel Drive, as it stands now, is about 1,000 feet long. And by extending it out this way, we'll be looking for a waiver on the length of dead-end street over 1,000 feet. Both of these houses exist today, so we'll be essentially creating one additional lot at the end of a dead-end road. I just want to put that out there because it's obviously something that'll be a waiver we'll have to ask for that I don't think has come up recently. Otherwise, it's Lug 1 zoning, 40,000 square feet. Both lots are oversized, so there's sufficient area in frontage for both lots. There will be waivers for the right-of-way. We have the standard reduced size cul-de-sac in this situation. Like I said, on-site well and septic, not a lot here to see. So taking one lot with 2 houses and creating 2 lots.
Board members, do you have anything? Andrew, Leslie, please.
Mr. Chairman, through you, what is the story on that lot that abuts it to the, I guess that's to the north? Will we see similar efforts?
The abutter to the north, I believe, has the same ability in terms of lot area. I believe they have spoken. I believe they have. Okay.
Oh.
I guess I'd let her speak to. I don't know exactly what their plans are, so I'll let her speak to that.
She speaks. Here you are. Come on down. Howdy.
Oh.
Yeah, you can pull that down. Don't worry. Yeah, it's okay. Don't worry about it.
I'm sorry, I've never been here before.
No, that's fine.
No, we knew
I'm
that already.
Geraldine Walker. My husband Patrick McGloin and I own the property adjacent. We had hoped at some point to be able to subdivide our lot. Similar situation. We have a septic for 8 bedrooms. We have a tiny 3-bedroom house. We would like to build another house. Ultimately, someday we would like to subdivide it, which is, I found this today. We weren't notified. I don't know if I was meant to be, but I found it on the online of your website today and decided to come and try to find out more about this road. If the road were to be between our properties, of course, we also would like to be able to do the same similar type of partial cul-de-sac on the opposite side, so that we could also have 2 lots of our oversized 2.29 acre property.
Great.
So,
Do you have anything
And,
to add to that?
well, that's my concern. If you as the property owner would come in later, I'd like them to coordinate this and.
I would have liked to do that too. Like I said, I found out about this by surprise.
Sure.
I would like very much to coordinate our efforts and have one road that we could share and maybe make a full circle cul-de-sac that would work for both of us. But
That's great. And just so you know, this is just preliminary, so it's a discussion. I'm glad you're.
Hold on. Go ahead.
I'm glad you're here tonight, so we can have this discussion early and before a full application comes in, because I think that would be really the way to go here. We're getting, I think, too many of these small ones without coordinating with the adjoining properties. So
absolutely, and we would love to do that. So
Great.
there you go.
Awesome.
Thank you.
So you understand, you're not required to be notified because of the type of plan that's being submitted.
I didn't,
But
actually.
But as Andrew said, it's
fine.
really advantageous you showed up. And the next step really for you should be to be talking with them, talking with Mr. Malloy,
Right.
in the very near future here, just to kind of be able to coordinate all of your efforts
I
together.
really appreciate the opportunity.
that's-
Thank you very much.
thank
It's a
you.
learning process for me. It's our first home, so we're
Congratulations.
just trying to figure out how it all works.
That's great.
Thank you.
No problem. Thank you.
And
All right, so go ahead.
Mr. Chairman, I'm just thinking that too, if there's a way to, possibly adjust, again, with the 2 neighbors working together, there's a way to adjust that turning circle and really minimize, the impact of that extension, if possible.
We'll be talking, obviously, to see if there's some kind of plans to work out together. So nothing will come, if and when we come back, we will have had that discussion.
Great, thank you.
So, really about the only thing that is required from the board at this point, if memory serves me correct, is just to let them chair. Correct?
I'll make that motion.
Hold on. That's correct, isn't it?
It is, Mr. Chairman, and I think the direction, unless anyone has an objection, is that they would meet and bring back a revised plan that reflects the both owners.
Yeah. Sound reasonable, Mr. Malloy?
That's perfectly reasonable, thank you.
Great. Okay. He's definitely going to be in touch with me. So that motion is made and seconded, did I hear?
Second.
All right, so that motion is now made and seconded. All right. Discussion on the issue? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, ayes have unanimously.
Exchange information.
Yeah, okay.
You actually read all that online? That's amazing.
Good job.
We can't even read it. Sometimes.
Okay.
All right, Mr. Chairman, I'm going to recuse for the next one, and I'm going to go home.
Duly noted, sir.
Okay? This is the first time I've ever done that. 10
Wow,
years.
huh?
Something at the end I have to recuse on.
First time
It's
I've
okay.
seen you recused twice.
I know, it's very unusual, but I understand. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Lowell. Have a good night. So, yes.
In an effort to not create a conflict, I was a participant in the subdivision of the property to the left of this that shared a road, number 8 Delaney.
Okay.
And I don't want to create any sense of false favoritism one side or the other. So
Okay.
I'm wondering if I should, in the best interest, recuse myself from this.
Yeah, I think the answer, I'm seeing staff kind of nod their head yes, just to be on the safe side. And I think why that if it does launch into a plan that comes before us, you're going to have to make a decision as to whether you need to do an ethics filing, if you want to participate in it. Again, that's probably a good discussion to have with staff, and we can kind of help you in the process.
Right. The issue is probably, since the sale has already happened and it's nothing pending, that it would be more of an appearance as opposed to an actual.
Exactly.
So between now and if a formal application comes in, if you filed something before that happens, then you could be able to sit on it at that time.
I just wanted to let my position be known prior to it.
Yep.
Great. Yeah, I think they're definitely experts. So I think the recommendation right now is probably to refuse. You get to go home early.
There you go.
There you go. Wow.
Well, I'm going to sit in the audience and watch.
Probably. Great. Thanks. Have a good night.
Good night, everyone.
All right. Take care.
Hey.
Quitter?
Why, you want to see how far we can go here at this point? Do you want to go for the trifecta?
No.
Anyways, with that in mind, sorry. So that brings us to 8117, Tony Yates and CO Linda Yates, 10 Delaney.
Good evening again, Dan Malloy, Site and Engineering for the applicant. So looking at a property on Delaney Road, about just shy of 19,000 square feet. This one's a little different in terms of, I guess, where we're going or looking to go with this. So right below this you have Dartmouth Lane, which is a paper street what the town just took. Eventually we'll be looking to acquire the 2 strips of that abut us. In effect, almost recreating the lane which has been taken, but to a different degree. So I'll go through some of the details, but this one will be a little different. So what we want to do initially is put in a small 20-foot right-of-way. Again, approval required. There'd be waivers to allow the right-of-way to be in this configuration. The 3 lots would conform to zoning. With our intent, if and when we acquire the portions of Dartmouth Lane, is to then move the right-of-way down so the lots get bigger and the road goes essentially back into Dartmouth Lane. And also as part of this, which is a little different than the last project you just looked at, one of the owners is in touch with the abutter to the south that's looking to acquire the other side of Dartmouth Lane, which would likely be used as a driveway for a rear lot. So we are going to try, in this case, to try to do some type, an approval required road to one degree that could also serve as a road or shared driveway for an abutting parcel. So that's generally what we're doing. So what we do is come in with this plan, proceed with this plan. When we acquire the portions of Dartmouth Lane, come back before you at that point to amend the plan to move the right-of-way. So you may be seeing multiple versions of this depending on the timing of Dartmouth Lane, if that makes sense.
All right.
Other than that, standard procedure stuff here. It's on water and sewer. All of the existing dwellings will be taken down, so 3 vacant lots will be created out of this. I don't believe any of the existing structures will remain on site. I don't know if they'll be moved, but they won't stay where they are. Aside from that, each lot is over 5,000 square feet, would have at least a 12-foot access road coming down. Depending on what happens with the abutter to the south, that may have to be a little bit wider than that once we determine that. Other than that, underground utilities. We haven't really looked at the road material yet here, not really knowing the full density of what we're talking about. I suspect it might be gravel, but we haven't really gotten there yet. That's it.
Okay. Good. Board members, do you have anything first of all?
I'm fine for preliminary.
Go ahead.
So this is a lot different because I guess before we move forward with the Dartmouth to take the paper street of Dartmouth Lane, that could have been used for the frontage, and this would have been a lot different.
Right.
But I think for whatever reason, there's been a change in what people wanted to do here. I think that it seems to me that Lot 1 could just be created through like A&R and not really necessarily be part of this unless you want it to be.
It could be. At some point, if the road was moved down, we'd
Yep.
see a portion of that going back to Lot 1.
Yep. I think, too, that normally we don't allow the road to be an easement area, but I think here we might want to consider that instead of a separate lot.
Okay.
So the easement could maybe be moved more easily.
If everything works out exceedingly well with the abutter to the south, we may be able to put the entire road in an easement of some kind inside of Dartmouth Lane and have nothing outside of it, which would be 30 feet wide, so have plenty of room to work in there if that does work out in that way.
Right. Because I don't, we'll end up with a weird 15-foot sort of orphan parcel and then another 15-foot parcel. And the intent here was really to remove that road and return the area to lots, which could still be accomplished once that land in the former Dartmouth Lane is released through the land court process. The problem is it's stuck there right now with a number of these different other paper street, and we can't just easily just reverse it. So it's sort of got to follow its course. But
The easement sounds like a good idea.
I think the easement is, it may for you all to have to go back to land court and get new lot numbers.
It would make better buildable lots if the road was in an easement versus taking all that area away just for a roadway.
Yep.
So Dartmouth Lane would be split in two like it's shown right now, like it was intended to do, with a driveway, so to speak, on it that's in an easement instead of a right-of-way.
Right.
That would be fine with us.
So the easement would in fact be the line of the frontage, which is something normally we don't do. We have done it in the past, but I think in this case, there's some special circumstances that I think would make it more reasonable.
Okay. I'm fine with that.
I
think
no,
Linda's
we're
good.
fine. No problem with us.
Good.
And we expect this to be an ongoing process. I don't
Right.
think we'll
Right.
That's what it
be
looks like,
here a
yeah.
few times to get this all revised.
Yes,
I
sir.
guess one question.
Yeah.
We can work that out as we go. If we came back with an AR for now based on this, could we pursue this as an easement with the condition that it would have to be modified once Dartmouth Lane? I'm just trying to think long term to change all the to make some of the changes long-term easier. So it would look like a 3-lot A&R, but with an easement over it instead of a right-of-way. It may just make the process easier as we change this a few times.
Yeah, I thought that's what your intention was. Yeah, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, you clear?
We're good, yes.
Good, okay. So, motion at this point.
Motion to send the letter through the chair.
Great. Do I hear a second?
A second.
Discussion. Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, ayes have unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anything else that has to come before the board at this point?
Motion to adjourn.
Great. Thank
Second.
you all.
A second.
All in favor?
A third.
Whatever.